All right, great.
Okay.
Welcome to another exciting edition of the new member meetup. These are community meetings for the e-NABLE network. They happen once a month, and they are being hosted by Rick Williams, who's also managing a number of other e-NABLE community help desk tickets and other things. So Rick, pass it to you.
Okay, well, now that we have everybody here, I guess what would make sense is to go around and have everybody introduce themselves. Tell us a little about yourself and where you're from and what it is that brought you here to e-NABLE. Tobias, can we start with you if you can hear us?
Yes. I'm Tobias. I'm from Belgium. I like 3D printing and designing 3D printed parts. I'm an engineering student in electronics and ICT. And next semester, I'm going to take some courses also on like medical electronics. I found this community when I was looking at some videos on YouTube on 3D printing prosthetic parts for animals. And with some Google searches, I found this and I was very interested in this community, so I joined.
That's awesome, Tobias. As a matter of fact, that's near and dear to my heart because I'm working on animal prosthetics myself. So it sounds like maybe you and I will be able to collaborate sometime in the future.
Would be nice.
Yeah. And the electronics is the fun part, right? Are you, I would assume you're doing Adrenos and Raspberries and microbits?
Yes. I have a lot of projects with the problem that the list of project IDs always is longer than time you have to make them. And I can do a bit of Fusion 360 is the program I work with, and Blender for the more artistic prints.
Very cool. Very good. You'll fit right in, I'm sure. Blender, we've just made some Blender interfaces that may interest you too. We'll have to talk sometime soon. Okay, is
nice.
there anything else you wanted to add, or?
I have some questions, but I will ask them later about like joining on the projects on the site. But that's not an introduction, so I will wait with that.
Have you already been on the hub and created an ID and such?
No, I didn't, but yeah.
A lot of valuable access to some extremely bright people on the hub, and you would be very probably welcome, and you could see what other people are working on and share ideas. It's an amazing tool. So if you go to the hub and sign up, I think you'd be very happy at what you'll find there.
Okay, I will do that then. Thank you for the information.
Gary.
Hi, Rick. Sorry, Ben, I tried to get my name on there, but I wasn't successful. But anyway, I don't have any experience with 3D printing. I was in engineering at Ford Motor Company until I retired many years ago. And I was involved until recently with an organization here called Tetra Society in Canada. And we made adaptive devices for people with any sort of disability. So I've had extensive, let's put it this way, experience with working with people. I wanted to get involved with e-NABLE for some time now because I was very interested in the hands, and particularly I'm interested in the situation in Ukraine, and I tried to contact. I think there's only one chapter there, but I wrote, but I didn't receive any response. But in any case, I'd like to get involved in the 3D printing, and also my son-in-law and my grandson are very interested. And we thought we could make up maybe a little chapter among the three of us to begin with. Anyway, I live in between Toronto and Ottawa in Canada. My son-in-law and his son live in the Ottawa area. So we have some questions about recipients and how to get recipients even here. And of course, any information you can help us with, what a starting point for the type of printer, and that's something that we can purchase, or we can both purchase. Something that's relatively easy to set up and use. Anyway, we're pretty well novices, and any kind of help would be nice.
No, that's all very good. Initially, you do not have to be a chapter to start building. Also, as we told Tobias, there's the e-NABLE hub. There's actually a map in there. There's a possibility there may be a chapter close to you. And
sorry to interrupt, but I have been in touch with Charlotte. She has a chapter in the Toronto area, and she's the leader. And so I've been messaging back and forth with her recently with some information. So
good. That's exactly how this is supposed to work. You did the right thing. And just some leadership and guidance sometimes by somebody close by to you is very valuable. And you'll have all kinds of once you join the hub, you'll probably get all kinds of people telling you, giving you some excellent info on printers and materials. Everybody's very good about helping and sharing information.
Yeah, well, I looked on your website, the recommended supplier of printers. I assume that's a US source, but the information is a little overwhelming.
It can be.
There's quite a prolific number of printers on there, and for me to try and select one has been kind of difficult. But Charlotte did recommend a printer, and so I'm looking into that now.
Okay.
I've got a question.
We have a lot of expertise, so hopefully we'll be able to help you with that.
And actually, Rick, I see that you're sharing your screen with the hub. Gary, are you on the hub?
Am I what?
In the community hub, this is the website that Rick has in front of us.
Yeah, up at the top right, you'll see it's at hub-enable.org. I just happened to be on the calendar because I wanted you guys to see where we put the meetings. But the hub is where you're going to want to go and join.
The only thing I see is my says Zoom at the top.
Oh, you're probably using your phone, yes?
I'm on a tablet.
You're on a tablet. Okay, so
that makes it harder, Gary. I'm in the same boat.
So I've added a couple links in the chat, but for those who can see Rick's screen, Rick, if you go to the forum, I think you're sharing your screen, yes, Rick?
I think so.
Yeah, looks like you are.
I don't know what you guys are seeing, so I'm going to go ahead and make that assumption.
Yeah, so if you go to the forum, yep, that's working. What you can search in the top right, or actually even better, if you scroll down, oh, looks like you have to sign in.
It's trying to make me sign in. Let me just go down here a little so you can see. But you'll see that there's just a wealth of people and information and unfortunately I'm not signed in here.
there's a lot of stuff on there, but Gary, I was going to mention for you specifically, you can search one of the tags for the topics. You know, people post different things. They ask questions about different things. One of the things that people post about are about printing, and you can get a lot of really good information from filtering all the posts just down to what you're looking for.
Okay.
So actually, if you want, I can share my screen really quickly, and I'll.
Do I need to do something for you to do that, sir? Oh, you just
No,
did it.
I got
Good. Excellent.
So what you can do is, it's hub.enable.org is the website, and it's
Okay.
e-enable. But once you get there, you go to the forum, and you can basically filter all the posts. So there's this filter at the top, and you go to the topics, and you could put printing, and you'll see that there's this
Okay.
printing process, and then you can start looking at all the printers that people are suggesting, and it can be helpful. If that's that might also be a little bit overwhelming as well. You can also email Jeremy Simon, who is one of the co-founders of e-NABLE and very knowledgeable about 3D printing. So you can just ask him very specifically.
What was his last name again? Jerry
Jeremy Simon.
Simon. Okay.
I'll add his email in the chat.
Okay. I see Drew Brown. Are you there?
Yeah, this is Drew's mother.
Well, hello, Drew's mother.
Yeah, Drew's in school, so, and I just happened to pop on and see this, but so my son is 16, he's a maker, and he's been 3D printing a stormtrooper costume for like 2 years now. But I was gonna tell Gary, we kind of researched printers for my son Drew, and we got a Prusa, PRUSA. It's a Czech company, but we got the printer for him because he had to build it, and they say that you should buy a printer that you can assemble because it's easier to fix, because they get jammed and clogged. So that, and he was probably 15 when he built it. It's not that complicated. So if you're an engineer, you could build it. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts. But anyway, I would like Drew to attend one of your meetings, but Drew's interested in making like a prosthetic hand. And he's probably more advanced for the 3D printing, and I don't know if there's a good build that he could start with. He keeps saying that he wants one that could be used by someone. And I said, well, Drew, you're just starting off. It doesn't, they have to be fitted and all that. But he is interested in getting into the engineering school at the University of Michigan. And they do a lot of research with the hospital. And so this is a really good field, so I know they're working on like just tons of prosthetics there. So I don't know if you guys kind of just asking if there's like a print that he could try, or how it works. Like, how do you print it and then you get certified, or you get a badge?
I'm going to let Ben address this because he's probably the best person to answer. There's a lot of the hands that are very, very popular and super easy to print. But Ben, what are you thinking?
What I can do, there was a recent post that I think would be really interesting for your son. A student asked sort of a similar question. And Eric Bubar, who teaches at Marymount University, suggested, which is a shift in the e-NABLE community, and I think is really important, that you can print a device, and then there's this whole rig that you can print, and you can do tests. And by testing a number of different devices, you can increase the quality and the design. So I think for a lot of new members who have 3D printing experience, focusing on sort of the knowledge base can be a great place to start.
Yes.
Printing for device users, it tends to be something that teams of people or universities or chapters that have established themselves can have those networks, those community networks, and it can take, you know, some time. But it can be really valuable for him to do those tests, to submit the data. And that also, I mean, in terms of looking at universities and sort of getting involved in research, participating in a project like that through a university that has a whole department now based on open source prosthetics, could be a you know, a great project for him.
Yes, that's exactly what he's looking for. And I you know, I said, Drew, it takes a lot to fit a prosthetic, and he understood that. And I was watching though how you were doing it online with some people, and it was crazy. But yeah, if you could send me that, like where he could kind of do some work and like to be challenged and enhance his skills, or send it to him in this forum, that would be great. And then it's really hard to get into the engineering school at University of Michigan, but if he does, he could even take this community with them because they're doing a lot of amazing research.
Great. So I don't know if you're sitting on a desktop. I've been adding some links in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
If you look in the chat, there's a hub post about devices and testing. I don't know if he or you are members on the hub. It's really easy. It's just an email address.
Yep, he is.
Yeah, I imagine that he is, if you guys got sort of emailed about this. So open up that post, and if you look, let's see, Hugo, let me scroll down a little bit. Yeah, Hugo is a mechanical engineering student in Brazil. And he's working on, you know, a whole bunch of different projects. The comments, if you open them up, you can go through, there's a bunch of great comments. And then you can see Eric's response. There's a lot of materials there, but let's see. Eric actually has a number of posts where he shares all the resources. Let me see if I can find the link specifically. Here we go. This is the one I think that has the link to the form. And there's a couple devices that they're testing. So following up with Eric, if you'd like, you can find out which device to start with. It's probably going to be the Kinetic Hand, I would imagine, that is, I think, the most advanced open source design right now that is involved with some of the research that he's conducting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Is that gonna see, I can't get into Drew's account because I don't know his password. I can get into his email, but okay, I see. I'll just copy these links and get in there. Thank you very much.
Yep. Yeah, and check out Eric Bubar.
Okay.
I'll put his account. Eric Bubar. I'll also add his email in here. But yeah, he started a whole department at Marymount for open source prosthetics focused on e-NABLE devices and research, which is really pretty incredible. So it's he'd be a great guy to talk to.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else that you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. We have Peter Anderson, I see, joined a little bit ago. Peter, are you there? Okay. Let's see.
From our end, it looks like you're on mute and there's no video.
Let's see. I'll request he unmute. Maybe he. Nope. He did a request unmute and he did not respond. Maybe he had to step away.
So in terms of getting oriented, one of the things that you guys can do, I added in the chat, it's called the parallel survey. I added everybody's name in there. But if you have a moment to open up the survey and fill this in, this is just sort of a general questionnaire. We haven't actually used it in a while. But it's a great way to find out a little bit more about what you guys are interested in, and just have the written document of that. We can follow up with emails. This is something that will make it easier, I think, for Rick, if something comes up in the call, that he can notify you if there's something in the hub that makes him think of the work that you're doing.
Hi guys.
Welcome, Peter.
Hi, how you doing? Sorry, I haven't got video at the moment.
No problem. We're going around and doing introductions. If you want to introduce yourself, where you are, what brought you to e-NABLE, maybe a little bit about your experience and where you'd like to go next.
Yeah, hi, my name's Peter from UK, England. And joined a little while ago because about a year ago during the COVID epidemic, I brought a 3D printer and built it up. It was a Prusa 3D sort of 3MK, I think it was, but perhaps it was similar to the ladies that was talking earlier on. But we built it up over the COVID period, and only now really we've got used to how it all works, and we're beginning to print some sort of projects off. So and then somebody suggested that we join you guys to see whether we could sort of help out in any way,
Great. That's awesome. And have you connected with any of the chapters in the UK? There's some really active chapters.
We've I started talking to a guy in Portsmouth, which is on the south coast, and we've been sort of like chatting between us sort of so far, but I haven't actually got involved in any projects so far. What we've done here is we've printed off one of the sort of test hands, and we're just getting to the stage where we're going to submit that for sort of verification, I think they call it.
Great. Very cool. I added a link of the chapter maps in the chat. So for any, it sounds like Gary has got some, Gary's been reaching out to some local chapters around his area in Toronto and Ottawa. Tobias, I don't think there's any active chapters on the map from Belgium, but there are in Luxembourg, and some of the neighboring chapters are pretty close. And for,
I can see, yes, I can see the map, and like the Netherlands, it's not very far away from me.
Yeah. I shared a link earlier related to, I apologize, Drew's mom. Drew's mom, what's your name? One more time.
Carol.
Carol. Carol had asked about projects for students, and I had mentioned that there's some testing that is really helpful that Eric Bubar has been working on. There's also a chapter in the UK that did some really interesting testing related to the kinetic hand. So that same link that I shared, Eric Bubar's, oh no, it's the one before it, the hub post about devices and testing. Dara Broadbent is a member of the hub who has a background in aerospace and maritime engineering. He did a project related to testing devices. So if you look at that same comment, I'll post it again.
Okay, thank you.
Scroll down, Dara Broadbent would be a great resource for you. Awesome.
Hmm.
So I'm curious, is everybody here familiar with the badges, the badging system?
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
I read through the badges system.
Okay, great.
So initially, when we get into the printing, I guess, do we have to make up a sample hand? Is that what I understand correctly? And submit it for approval?
Yeah, so we have, if you go to the hub, you guys can see my page. There's all these different devices. There's a whole page for devices with some,
Right.
it sort of breaks it down into the different kinds of devices that we have. You can go to see all devices and you can go through and see all these different designs, and they're sort of rated in different ways. In terms of badges, again, right at the top, you'll see that there's badges. We have maker badges. There's 27 of them for different devices that are recommended for new members that have been produced by a number of people. And you can see how many people have made the device. If you click on, we talked about the kinetic earlier. If you click on the kinetic, it'll tell you about the process. You can see all these people that have printed a kinetic, which is great. So you can actually follow up with them. If you hover over any of these people, you can also see all the other devices that they have. So for example, Matthew here has also participated in donating PPE and has also assembled a 3D printed hand and whatever else. This can be a really great way to get support, to show other people about your experiences, and just a great way to get involved in the beginning.
Yeah.
Can you scroll back up so I can see the hand that you're recommending?
Yeah, this is the kinetic hand.
hand. Okay. Okay, got it.
Yep. And I'll add that in the chat if you'd like. And if you go to the forum, you see somebody that posts something, let's say, I don't know, Jeremy Simon, he's posting about what's going on in the forum. Anytime that somebody posts, you can scroll over their name and up pops all their badges. So you can get a sense of people's experience and also communicate. New members, they're not going to have a whole lot of badges. Not everybody uses the badges. But many people do, and it can be just a great way to be involved.
Yeah. Okay. What about recruiting recipients for hands? Like, how do you go about doing that?
Maybe I'll pass that one back to Rick to answer, because I know you're doing a lot of those kind of questions on the help desk as well.
A lot of the times what we see is we have people that will actually come to e-NABLE and make a request for a hand. They'll typically explain what it is that they need, whether it's just a hand or an arm, or if it's above or below elbow, those types of things, and what it is that they would require in order to fulfill their needs. At that point, we usually have a lot of volunteers who will jump in and assist, either with measurement, printing. Sometimes it's an effort between quite a few volunteers. Sometimes it just depends on who's available and what they've got on their plate. I think you'll find that there's always something required. A lot of the times you may just ask, when you see somebody make a request for a hand, if you could get involved as a new user, and just to get to where you understand the process, maybe just print some specific parts that you're comfortable with. For instance, the kinetic hand, one of the issues some people have is you have some parts that have to be printed in TPU. And some people can't do TPU. They have, say, a Bowden type extruder on their printer, and it might not lend itself well to printing soft rubber. And a lot of people will jump in and say, well, you know what, I'll help you with the specific type of materials you need. Like for Tobias, I had some, we were printing a prosthetic for a dog. And there was one lady that jumped in and she said, wow, I can print in carbon fiber. Well, I can't. And I thought that was awesome. You know, the people are so helpful and coming up and saying, well, I have a capability, or I have a size limitation, for instance. Some people have a size limitation on their printer, and that makes it somewhat difficult. So reach out and offer up. When you see somebody make a request, I think you'll find there's plenty of work for all of us.
Oh, well, that's good to hear.
But a lot of the times, just starting with specific parts is very useful. And I know that Jeremy has been looking at like some of the kits that people can buy. They're basically unassembled hands or arms, and you know, a lot of the times building a kit is a great place to start. But having one of the volunteers do your measurements initially would really be recommended, because it's really one of those measure twice, cut once situations. If the measurements are wrong, everything's wrong. And you'll learn a lot from the guys that are masters at measuring.
Well, that sounds good. Yeah. Well,
I added-
obviously I have a lot to learn.
We all do, believe me. We very rarely get to the same.
Yeah.
I added in the chat the e-NABLE Web Central link, but it's worth mentioning that e-NABLE it's decentralized and it's a distributed network. So it's not like some organizations that sort of have a headquarters based somewhere and there's one main website. Each region really has its own kind of local communities and networks. So for example, in Turkey, there's one chapter that manages cases throughout the whole country, and they have a matching system that they use to match makers with device users. France also has a really advanced chapter that works even outside of France, sort of supporting all the French-speaking community members. I don't know, Tobias, if you speak French, which part of Belgium you're from?
I'm from Flanders, so my first language is Dutch, but I can speak a bit French.
Cool. So yeah, that's something that they would have resources in French. They also support a lot of chapters in North Africa and in different places. And they have their own matching platform. So they're matching between makers and device users. e-NABLE Web Central is designed to be sort of internationally facing, but it's just one of many ways that people are connecting online. e-NABLE Brazil has a really awesome platform that they use. There's several others. What we found though is that instead of sending a device, let's say you can find somebody that's in the Philippines and they need a device and you can make something and send it to them, but it makes a lot more sense sometimes to try to reach out locally and find out what projects you can get involved with within your own community. So whether that's connecting with local organizations or church groups, also sometimes rehab facilitation offices, even like with Rick reached out to a local vet, a veterinary surgeon, who was very interested in partnering with him. So Rick has been collaborating directly with a veterinary surgeon on some cases that he has for dog prosthetics. And that's something where Rick can meet with his team and work on things locally. And I think that really has been a great way for people to get connected, to have all these international resources, to be using open source devices with collaborations around the world, but making a difference at home. And for Carol, schools also are really great. So reaching out to Michigan folks, looking at the chapter map and finding schools in your region that not only are going to have interested students and professors, but sometimes also have community spaces for working on projects.
Good.
Have they ever been able to go to, has anyone, because I also work for General Motors. I'm an accountant though, so I'm not an engineer, but so now additive manufacturing is a big buzzword where we can 3D print parts, right? So even GM's looking at supporting some military initiatives where if you're on a battlefield, you can potentially 3D print your parts, or in a desert somewhere or something like that. So has anyone ever done something like volunteer things in areas that were hit by war? I'm thinking Afghanistan, Syria, with children who are maimed or something. Have you ever seen? I mean, that would be a large effort. But have you ever seen that with anyone in your communities?
Yep. Actually, there's an effort. I have a meeting after this with one of the outreach volunteer coordinators with a team in Afghanistan. But the different regional chapters are really the local leaders for this stuff. And
so is it educating them more, kind of the value you bring is?
Yeah, and actually sometimes it's the other way around. It's learning from them. I mean,
Okay.
so I'll share my screen again. One of the projects that I got involved with when I first started with e-NABLE was these chapter spotlights. And there's just 10 of them, but I can share the link. There's chapters in Syria and in Pakistan, and they are doing incredible work. And in some ways, they're more interconnected with the healthcare systems and organizations and schools and businesses than many of the U.S. chapters. Really inspiring stuff. I'll add this to the chat, chapter spotlights. If anybody wants to, each one of these is sort of a deep dive into the research and the history of the chapter. The chapter in Turkey has done some really incredible outreach, but specifically like in Syria, it's Ahmad and his team. They have quite a lot of equipment, and they're also doing, not just upper limb, but lower limb development. They have a lot of need for lower limb. So he's been doing this research, not just using 3D printing, but also CNC machines, working with aluminum. And, if you follow his Facebook, it's just really advanced lower limb prosthetics that they've been developing. And again, there's a clear need here. They're also doing splints and different things, but yeah, I'm sort of scrolling for some of the lower limb stuff. Here we go. So he's putting a bunch of effort into a full range of prosthetics. In the US, we are more limited to upper limb. There are projects that are supporting lower limb development, but usually for projects that are in other countries because of the FDA regulations and that kind of stuff. But there's some other countries, like in Paraguay, they're also doing lower limbs. They're integrated into the healthcare system. It's run by doctors. They started out as students and then finished their degree. So yeah, some lower limb devices that they're doing as well.
Very cool.
Is there any sort of backlash from the medical community? Like there are obviously commercial companies that make prosthetics. Like, is there any sort of interference with their products or anything like that?
It's a great question. Do you want to take that one, Rick?
Well, you would think so, but for instance, Hanger Clinic, you've probably all heard of. Right, they have a very large office right here by me, and they invited me to their office to bring in some of our devices and show them to them. And I would have somewhat expected some friction, but I did not find that with Hanger. You probably heard of Hanger. They're the ones that did the dolphin tail.
Right.
Yeah, that was right here in Tampa Bay. And I just find more often than not that surgeons, doctors, they want to work with us because a lot of the times there's this either a one size fits all oftentimes mentality with some of these devices, but a lot of these people that we work with don't have the funds to go to Hanger Clinic. And children, for instance, you have to look at how many devices a child would potentially need. Think shoes. I mean, kids outgrow shoes. They're going to outgrow also their prosthetic devices. So many families just don't have funds or the resources to be able to afford that through the mainstream. And I think that's where, e-NABLE steps in. It's understanding that we can fill that gap potentially.
Yeah.
And Gary, that's a really good point. e-NABLE's been around for about 10 years now. And I think in the beginning there was, I think a divide between, volunteers that wanted to get involved and people that were healthcare professionals. I think you saw a lot of that shift over time as it sort of additive manufacturing became, I think, more familiar and people saw the values of it. During the pandemic, it was a big part of sort of filling in some of the gaps in the supply chain. And I think there's a research paper. I'm going to see if I can pull it up while we're talking, but I think it was from 2016. John Scholl, one of the co-founders of e-NABLE, was one of the authors on it. And it was looking at sort of the healthcare community. And since then, it really has been a big sea change. And partly, I think you also see, the things that people are studying in school, people are getting their degrees and they're working professionally and they're aware of these kind of communities and the kind of collaborations that are possible with open source. And I think that shifts things. Once upon a time, there was, these kind of rogue students that are getting involved, and now they're all doctors.
I will say that most of the people that I work with have been sent to me by a doctor, a surgeon, or an attending care physician who saw us as the best option for right now. And I think that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Wow, no, that's great.
I did share in the chat, so this is one of several monthly meetings that we have. So I added the September community events. You'll see that there's a bionics group. I know Tobias mentioned being interested in that side of things. That meets once a month. An interesting group. Sometimes we have some folks that are working full-time for Google. Nick Height has limb difference and is working on really advanced bionics. He joins sometimes, so it can be a really interesting group. One of the September community event that we just added in is e-NABLE Healthcare Professionals group. That's a sort of a brand new thing that we're going to try out. It'll be led by Adam Jennings, who's a physical therapist. And this month, there's going to be a presenter from Brazil. She's going to share her master's thesis. And then I think generally her and Adam will talk about the value of e-NABLE for healthcare professionals. So feel free to join. And, you know, there are a lot of people involved in the community that are working professionally. So.
Well, that's good. That's good to know, yeah.
Tobias, I just saw University of Michigan has an open source bionic leg.
Oh, that's great.
I'll put it in the chat.
You
But
can, oh, I will.
Tobias, my son likes robotics, and they're starting an undergraduate program in robotics. I think it's the first in the United States.
Yeah, next year I'm going to have a course on the robotics also. So maybe I can share some information with them.
Yeah,
They can share back or so.
yeah, definitely.
I will give you my email address in the chat maybe.
Okay. They have a graduate and an undergraduate. They're the first university in the United States to have an undergraduate degree in robotics. They're just starting, but they have a great research hospital. And so they really are looking to outreach to do robotics for good, right? And even they talk about exoskeletons that will lift people out of their chairs, like older people who can't, you know, so then they don't have to go to a nursing home if they just can't get up, right? If they're recovering from surgery. So there's a lot of great research they're doing. So just look at some of their programs. But you know, for kids like you who are self-starters, they probably collaborate. You can see the research projects going on. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I have seen some nice helping robots, like I don't know if you ever seen the film Big Hero 6 with BMX. They are making that in real life, like it's like a movie about a helping robot, and they are recreating that with like the same inflatable properties. It's crazy.
It is. So, but yeah, and there's biomechanical engineering or biomedical engineering, right? So, so that's where engineers work with, like neurologists and stuff like that. So they're talking about implanting things in people's heads, and then they can move their legs. So I mean, the science is going to go crazy, but it's great to see that medicine and science and engineering are all kind of meeting up. So I just want my son to do something good.
I was going to say for you, Carol, if you want to create an account within the e-NABLE network, it'd be great to share that. I mean, if you, it seems like you shared that link, but you know, that's definitely a big interest. I think internationally, there's a lot of really awesome projects going on right now with lower limb stuff. Actually, in Afghanistan, that's really the biggest need that they have. So sharing that post and maybe you know, learning about those local resources, you know, could be an option for your son, but also you might be able to find some other projects and teams and students locally. About half of the chapters are high schools and universities. And it looks like there's, I think, 4 or 5 different current chapters in Michigan on both sides of the state. Some of them are high schools. Did everybody see earlier that survey, that parallel survey? It's just a spreadsheet, but it looks like Tobias began filling it out. If anybody else wants to add in their contact information, I'll make a new space for Peter. But that can be a way that if you guys save the link to this, you can also contact each other. So there's a
Okay.
new space in there for Peter.
Okay, thank you. Do I see that in the e-NABLE Hub webpage?
I just shared it in the chat. I can share it again.
Okay, thank you.
How do I access that?
Oh, yeah, see, yeah.
I shared it in the chat. And if
Okay.
you if you don't have access to the chat, if you want to just add your, or see what would be the best way to do this.
Okay,
Jim.
yes, I can see it now.
Okay. And actually, Rick is also using his tablet. Do you want to guide Gary on how he can find the chat?
Yeah, Gary, I'm kind of in the same boat you are right now, so I understand. In order for
Okay.
you to get to this, up at the top right hand, there's 3 little dots and a more right next to the end button.
Right
And
next
if
to the what?
they're up at the top right, there'll be a button that says end, but there's 3 dots with a more underneath, right to the left of that. And you'll see the 3rd item down is chat. If you click on that, it'll take you to the links that Ben has been putting up for you.
Well, I see 3 little dots on my bottom right.
That might be it.
It might be, yeah, maybe we're
Maybe
set
that-
up differently.
Let me try clicking on that.
Yeah, it should be next to between participants and end. There should be like a more.
I can see a view full transcript. Would that be it?
A little above that. One above, 2 above
Chat?
that, I'm sorry. Chat, there you go.
Okay.
And that'll
Yeah.
have all these messages that that people have been putting out there so you can see them.
Oh,
And for
okay, great. Yep.
For everybody, if you're in the chat, right next to where you can type a message, you should see another 3 little dots that says more, and you can save the chat. So if you want to save the links, you can just hit save chat, and that means that when you end this message, it will automatically email you, or not email you, it'll automatically open on your computer or your device a little saved file with the chat.
I wish mine had that.
Yours doesn't.
I
No.
can't see it on mine, no.
Okay.
No,
Well,
I wish it did though, because that would be awesome.
You know what I'll do? Everybody has found this through the hub, I think, in one way or another. So what I'll do is I'll just copy the chat and add it as a comment to the event, if that makes sense.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I don't, for whatever reason, think we have all the options that would be on a non-tablet.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to add in the link. One more link. This is the current meeting that you guys are in, and I'll add the chat there.
Okay.
Also, we just had William Flowers join us. Oh, William.
Welcome, William. We can't hear you. Maybe you're connected to a Bluetooth device.
William, can you hear us? I don't know. I don't think he can hear us. Or I can't hear him.
No. Not if you can hear us. Maybe not.
Or wave.
Wave. Oh,
Hey,
okay.
he hears us. Okay, that's
Okay,
good. That's
that's
half of it.
Cool. Well, so we're ending we're getting close to the top of the hour. So what I can do is maybe open it up to the floor. Does anybody have any last minute questions or things they want to follow up on?
No, thank you for all the information. Nice to meet everyone.
Awesome. No, it's great to have you guys here. And Rick, when is the next new member meetup?
A month from now. I'm only. Let me see if I can manage to get to the calendar. I'm not sure I can, but I will try. I believe
It's the third Friday every month
yeah.
at the same time.
And hopefully I'll do a better job for you next time. I'm just struggling through it. Ben just taught me today. So
Oh, you did great, Rick. No
Yeah, you've done
problem.
well.
Thank you.
Well done, Rick.
and you know, you've got hopefully our email addresses. And if there's anything else, you know, that you think of after the meeting, who doesn't do that, right? You're going to go, I wish I'd asked this. Please go ahead and feel free to email us and we'll see what we can. We may not know the answer, but we probably know someone that does.
Okay.
Okay.
It's true. And I'll add in this one last link. If anybody's interested in Rick's work, actually, Rick, do you have a link to the interview that you did with Jeremy? I can see if I
I
can
do
find
not.
it too.
I believe he put that on, I believe he put it on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I'll add it in as a comment to the post, but Rick is doing this really interesting research with bionics and other things. So a lot of really cool projects, people around the world doing a lot of different things. And we're glad to have you here. And Rick has taken over managing these monthly meetings, which is great. And he's also just a wealth of knowledge. So feel free to follow up with him and learn more about his work.
Well,
And you'll
thank you very
find
much.
too that a lot of the chapters and the sites, they all have their own web pages as a chapter. So most of the people that Ben was alluding to that you can go see what badges they have, they mostly have a website that you can go to and look at their work individually too. If you see someone that's just doing something super interesting that you want to research a little, you'll find it in their chapter information.
Okay.
And if anyone's interested, I could put my website up there too. I don't know if this is the place for that, but why not? Here you go.
Great.
This has some of the information we're working on.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah,
Nice
thank you.
meeting everyone.
Yeah.
Nice
Cheers.
meeting everyone. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for bailing me out again.
Bye for now.
Great
You did
job,
great.
guys.
See ya.
Okay.
See
Bye-bye.
ya. Speak to you next
Bye.
time. Bye.